It's the Takeover. It's the Takeover right here on the award-winning CBJ Radio. We're always bringing you the coolest artists on Wednesday nights, and tonight's no different. Singer-songwriter Jeff Scott Soto. He's best known for being the vocalist on Yngwie Malmsteen's first two albums, but he's also sang with Journey, Eyes, Sons of Apollo, his self-titled band Soto, Wet, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and he's currently the frontman for Art of Anarchy, and they just released an album, Let the Anarchy Begin, and the awesome single called Die Hard. We're stoked to have the one and only Jeff Scott Soto on the show with us. First, Jeff, thanks so much for coming on.
Jeff, there's no point in even speaking now. You pretty much just said it all for me.
Well, I didn't say this. Congratulations, man. 40 years in the music industry. Where did the time go?
It was a lot of hard work. Love, sweat, blood, and tears, all of the above. And it's still very much so. It's one of the things I've always prided myself as a singer, as an artist, as a writer, producer, all of the above, is the fact that I just don't get bored. I don't rest on my laurels. I don't just say, I've been there, done it. Now I'm just going to ride off into the sunset. There's still a lot more to carve out in the world, whether people take notice or not. It's at this point in my career, in my life, it's all about making myself happy and having a creative outlet. So that's what I'm using my my career, if you want to call it that, for these days.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, can you believe it when you were on Yngwie's first two albums that you'd be here 40 years later?
Well, that was the plan. I never went into this as a part-time or let's see if it happens. And if nothing, if anything doesn't happen from it, I have a plan. There was no plan B. There's no plan C. There's only a plan A. And plan A, I didn't realize was going to take 40 years of, I think that I have the best working title for a book, Jeff Scott Soto, How an Overnight Success. It only took 40 years to be overnight success. Something within the context of that. Because I'm still not a household name. I'm still not somebody that the world knows, and I probably never will be. And I joke about all the time that Tony Bennett was part of that whole Rat Pack scene, and he didn't become the king of that mountain until they all passed. So I think there are way more names that within my generation, my genre, they're going to be around kind of holding the court before I get a chance to kind of hold the throne. So at this point, I'm writing it out in terms of making the most out of everything that I've done and just trying to keep the interest of those that have been following me through all these years.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Do you get the respect or recognition? I don't think you do, because I'm a huge rock fan, and I mean, I've heard of Sons of Apollo. I think I had your guys' couple albums. I mean, Art of Anarchy, we heard from Scott Weiland and all that jazz, and now it's you. But I mean, do you think obviously no. I mean, what do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I stopped thinking about it. It used to bother me, or I used to have a big picture of I got to get to this level. I remember even in junior high school, I had the Peachy folder. I don't know how old you are, but we had the yellow folders with the sports figures on them.
Oh yeah.
And we don't scribble and doodle on them. And I remember on the inside, on the pocket, I had like my plan of, by the time I'm 18, I want to be in a signed band. By the time I'm 21, I have to have a gold album. And I had achievements. I had goals that I was going for that had to do with accolades in the industry. And at some point, you have to stop chasing accolades. You have to stop chasing. I've never been one of those artists that I'm making music for a Grammy. I don't want to be an award-winning artist. I want to be somebody who's respected for what I do and what we do by my peers, by fans. But if it doesn't get to that level, if I'm not a household name like Ozzy Osbourne or Paul Stanley or David Lee Roth, then that just wasn't my destiny. As long as I'm given the outlet to do what I do and the creative outlet that people are interested in listening to, I'm happy.
That's a good attitude. I mean, I just kept thinking when I'm researching you, I've done hundreds of interviews with artists. You obviously have topped the most as being the lead singer. Can you remember all the lyrics? I mean, could you sing like, a song from Eyes back from 1990?
Yeah, absolutely. The funny thing about that is the earlier part of my career, I would say like the first 5 or 10 years, the data is probably still stored in the hard drive up there. The latter years, the last 20 years or so, the most recent stuff, the stuff I listened to the most. I mean, the Art of Anarchy album is the freshest because it was the most recently written. Is the one that I listened to the most when we're mixing and approving mixes. And so I can't remember one word because the only time at this point in my life and stage, the only time the muscle memory kicks in is if I actually perform it live. And I remember that even the first Sons of Apollo tour, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going on stage with songs I've never sung anything of. At least with the other outlets I do, Talisman or JSS or the Soto Legacy show, whatever, I have elements of the show where I can relax because it's right there, it's stored. But Sons of Apollo and now Art of Anarchy, I'm going to be going on stage singing songs. I don't know when to move. I don't know where to breathe. I don't know if this note's going to be hard to hit. All those things are things you learn as you tour, as you do shows. And that's not going to happen until we actually hit it really hard. I mean, we got like 8 shows coming up. That's not going to be enough for me to memorize the entire set. I'm still going to be, pushing my little pedal of my Bluetooth pedal and scrolling lyrics because I know the songs, I know the melodies, I know where I'm supposed to sing when I'm not, but I just can't remember all the lines and where they all fit because I got to get rid of the first 3 Boston albums and the first 9 Styx albums and the first 14 Journey records. I got to get rid of all that stuff first and put my own data and store my own data.
I hear you. Yeah, we're full. Our files are full at this point in life. I mean, I do the morning show and I talk and people, you see people 2 weeks later and they're like, oh, and you were talking about that? I'm like, dude, I don't even remember what I had for breakfast, let alone what
That's
I talked
funny.
about.
We were just talking about Howard Stern. He's another one I listen to all the time. He doesn't. I remember guests he had on the show, and he's like, "Have we had them on the show?" I'm like, "Dude, of course you had them just last year." He just doesn't remember because there's so much content, and when you're on, sometimes your memory's not remembering the actual parts of work, and that for all intents and purposes, being a singer and being in a band is considered work, but as well as it is pleasure. So sometimes the work part it really kind of numbs the brain.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, Art of Anarchy, what you're in now, Sons of Apollo, you were with Bumblefoot, also Mike Portnoy. So, I mean, obviously that led you to Art of Anarchy?
Pretty much, yeah. When we were doing the first Sons of Apollo tour in 2018 was kind of when Art of Anarchy was on the outs for the second time. They had the bad luck with Weiland and then the bad luck with Stapp in terms of those singers moving forward with the band. So at that point, Ron said, I think we're done. I don't think there's going to be any more. And what a bummer. I really like the records. And I just like the writing style. I like the ideas that these guys came up with, even if I wasn't necessarily a fan of the singers that were in there in terms of, I was never really a Creed or Stone Temple Pilots fan, but I love musically and song wise what these guys were doing. And I'm like, man, what a drag. This band deserved to have a lot more than you were able to get out of it. And so from that, it was kind of resonating in the back of my head. And when we were forced off the Sons of Apollo tour in 2020, we were sitting at home like everybody else, not knowing how long this was going to last, how long we're going to be stuck at home. And Ron and I were just catching up, and it kind of came up again. I go, man, what a bummer about Art of Anarchy. And I would have loved to have heard what my voice sounded like on that material. And from that, Ron just said, well, we never stopped writing. We're not really thinking about continuing the band. We're not talking about it, but we're still writing. We're still creating. Let me send you a couple songs, and just, if you want to play with them, just have fun with them. There was no intent. It was just like 2 artists, 2 friends, just sharing information, sharing music. And from that came song after song after song. Next thing you know, we had like 2 albums worth of material. And then when it was time to, hey guys, what are we going to do with this? That's when we finally took the songs that sounded like a record, and that's what you have here. Let There Be Anarchy.
Yeah, we're chatting with Jeff Scott Soto. Go and check him out, artofanarchyband.com. They're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. He said it, the new album, Let There Be Anarchy, is out now. I mean, the Art of Anarchy stuff, I heard you in an interview that was kind of funny. You're the third Scott, because of Scott Weiland, Scott Steff, and now Jeff Scott Soto. So you mentioned the songwriting. Did Ron loves Art of Anarchy. Is he the primary songwriter? Are you doing the lyrics? Was it everything done? What?
Well, this actually is the brothers band. This is Vince and John Boda.
It started and the brothers,
the whole idea behind Art of Anarchy started with them in terms of they're part of a family business which they now run. They're very successful on their own right, but they always had that rock and roll dream, and they never pursued it the way Ron and I and so many who put everything aside, sleeping on couches and eating food from 7-Eleven just to survive until we made it. They had an actual real business, and actually they actually had another career on the side, but they always dreamed of that rock and roll side, kept their hair long and everything, and they known Ron since they were teenagers. So he's kind of weaned them and kind of helped them in songwriting and producing. And it was I forgot what part of the early 2010s where they said, you know what, we're not going to put a band together. We're not going to do this, that, and we just want to make a record of our songs. And they asked Ron to help them. They were going to round up a bunch of different singers to be on different singer on different songs. Scott Weiland was the first one they called in. And it was his people that suggested, hey, why don't we just make this a band and make Scott the sole singer, and you guys make him have him sing on the whole record. That's how it all kind of snowballed into Art of Anarchy. It was just going to be a Voda Brothers kind of thing. So it started with them. They were the primary songwriters. Ron would come in and kind of help them finish songs, produce them, and mix them. Ron's just an entity. He's a wonder kind, that guy. And so that's basically the progression of what became Art of Anarchy. And obviously, I'm just so blown away by what Ron does and how he does it with Sons of Apollo. I said, I got to keep this guy under my wing. I got to keep working with Bumblefoot. And it was kind of a combination of I love Art of Anarchy's music and I love Ron and I love his playing. It's a double whammy for me that I get to do both.
Yeah, for sure. How bummed? How pissed were you? You guys are on Sons of Apollo. You're like 4 shows in. COVID hits. I mean, life just falls out. What were you thinking?
Yeah, well, it wasn't even anger. I mean, obviously, there was a lot of money spent to alter things and change flights and get everybody home, crew and all of the above. Storing gear in a locker in Germany for I don't know how many years that we had to pay for later once everything opened up. That was the only frustrating part. We really only cared about being safe, being healthy, and trying to understand what was going on. It wasn't so much anger. It was more frustration, like the rest of the world. We're no exception. We're no different. We're not special. We were frustrated and bummed like everybody else. And, and then obviously when it was time to play catch up, boy, did Mike play catch up. He ended up catching up and returning back to the mothership. And, for the rest of us, we just thought, if we want to continue doing stuff together, it's going to have to be in other platforms. And that's why, Ron's got the thing with Derek and Dino Jalusic now, and I've got this with Ron and Art of Anarchy, and we all know where Mike ended up, and everybody's just doing their thing.
Are you surprised Mike's back with Dream Theater?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. I knew eventually someday it would happen. I didn't know when. We didn't know any of the details, and, he was smart not to tell anybody because it's so easy for it to get out there.
Oh, yeah.
But we didn't know the day it was coming out. We didn't know any of the details behind it. And this, we don't harbor any feelings. It's his life, his career. He's entitled to whatever he needs to do to harness what he's doing. And I wish him nothing but the best. It's great for the fans. To me, it's the same as if Steve Perry ever came back to Journey. People would want that. That's what people expect. People would want. But the other guys that were in there in between were holding down the fort. It's something that Mangini did for Dream Theaters. He held down the fort, and he did it really well. But it makes sense for Mike to return to the mothership and those guys to finish what they started.
Yeah, can't wait for the new stuff. They're writing it right now, is what he said. It's cool. Like in 2000, you did a Freddie Mercury birthday party. You did something else in 2012. That had to be pretty sweet to get asked to sing Queen songs.
I was actually 99 that I did. Was that
99?
The first time I met Brian, and that was the beginning of a very. For me, I'm over the moon. It's a pinch me moment every time I get a meme from him, or we get to hang out and have regular chats like you and I are doing. But because as a kid, your idols are the ones. I mean, we're on a Zoom call here, and I can see behind your wall there. I can tell what you're into. So that was Queen for me. It was the same thing for me. And so when you befriend your idols or your peers, and they become somebody who's actually part of your inner circle all of a sudden, or you're part of theirs, it turns into something completely different from when you idolize them just on a musical level. So yeah, of course, there were a lot of pinch me moments, and that was the beginning of many with Brian and Roger. And I'm so blown away that I'm so close to this camp still to this day.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. You could tell anyone, Jeff, fuck you. I sang for Journey and I sang Queen songs. I don't care if you fucking know me or not. Fuck you. I've been there. So, yeah, I can sing whatever.
The one that was missing, and unfortunately that's not going to happen anymore, is I would have loved to have taken it to the next level with Van Halen. That's my trifecta. It was Journey, Queen, and Van Halen. Man, if I could have sung with Van Halen, even for a show, that just would have been the end of it. I quit. I'm done. Yeah, I don't need to do anything anymore.
I'm retiring. I'm done. There's nothing left for me. Hey, I wouldn't hold out on that Van Halen. That'd be something. You never.
Well, no,
know.
I mean, you couldn't do it without.
Well, exactly. Without Eddie.
Without Eddie,
yeah.
Of course.
Go and check out Art of Anarchy. Let There Be Anarchy is out now. They're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Go check out their awesome videos. We're going to touch on here in a second. Are you still a Steelers fan, Jeff?
Yes, I am. I'll always be a diehard Steelers fan. I'll always be a diehard Lakers fan. And it's my whole Chiefs thing. The whole shift to the Chiefs is thanks to my son, or how wherever you sit on the NFL. A lot of people are anti-Chiefs now, especially now. And I became a Chiefs fan because of my son. He was watching them and following them when they were still losing. Nothing was going on with them, and he just said, "You know what? There's something about this team that I feel it." And lo and behold, 2018, the world shifted for them.
Yeah.
So just to kind of be on the side of my son, I want to, hey, I'm gonna follow what you follow. I'm gonna back what you back. I became a Chiefs fan just how I love them.
Well, yeah. Now you've had success. See, here's my Steelers wallet. I got a Steelers blanket. My Steelers calendar.
Oh, look at you.
My Steelers mouse pad. I'm.
Yeah, I love it. I've got tons of stuff in my studio here too. So I have more Steelers stuff than Chiefs stuff. Trust me.
The vilified video. You guys aren't messing around with these videos, Jeff. I mean, is this the brothers' idea? Who's this?
Well, it's kind of a cumulative effort in terms of this is do or die time. If we go out there and pussyfoot it, for lack of a better term, it's going to look as such. It's going to look like, okay, they put it back together, but it doesn't look as serious as it should. So we decided, let's just go balls to the wall. Let's make huge productions the way people used to do back in the day when there were productions, when there were budgets.
Yeah.
And let's go out there in a big way so it shows people that we're serious about this. Because if we just do like a $2,000, $3,000 video, it's going to look like, okay, they're just kind of seeing if it sticks on the wall, if it doesn't. This is do or die. So we're putting everything on the table here, and we're hoping that it resonates.
Yeah, Vilified's amazing. Cuba Gooding Jr. is starring in this thing, but I mean, it totally hits home. Depression, PTSD, mental health issues. I mean, it's perfect for right now.
Tate doing the narration on there, which is also really cool.
Yeah.
The funny thing, as many times I heard that song during the mixing process, I didn't know that was Tate, but there was a familiarity behind the voice. But I thought they just got some really, really well-spoken news person to read this dialogue that they wrote out. And then when the video comes out, I'm reading the liner notes. I'm like, that's Jeff Tate. What? Even he didn't tell me, hey, I'm doing narration on your new song. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But
it's perfect.
And another little tidbit of information. I don't know if I should be saying it, but I'm going to say it anyways. I don't care. It was actually a toss-up between Cuba Gooding Jr. and Ralph Macchio for that role in the video.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was a scheduling issue that Ralph couldn't do it. Maybe he was doing another Cobra Kai. But I'm so glad that we got Cuba to do it because he's just stunning. He just, without saying a word, you can feel every essence of what he's portraying in the video.
Yeah, totally. The emotion that he portrays is, and like you say, it doesn't say a word. I mean, it's powerful stuff. Vilified. Go and check it out. And then the new single, Die Hard. You got to have big balls to release a song that's 7 minutes and 40 seconds.
Absolutely. Well, if you add the intro and the outro, which that's more like an album thing, when you do those kind of things for records for the dramatic effect, but to keep them in the video, you clearly got to have a lot of content. And as you can see, we had a lot of content for that video.
Yeah. How fun was filming it?
It was a blast. I mean, you can't say any red-blooded male on this planet can't say they never dreamed of being a superhero.
Well, yeah.
And for the most part, we got to portray superheroes. I got to throw a car at the beginning of the video. The other guys they have their secret weapons, their own powers or whatever, and it's so cool, so fun to have that side outside of what we normally do, what we're expected to do, which is just the music side of things. So it was a lot of fun to do, and I'm hoping we're going to do a lot more of that kind of stuff because it's a blast.
Yeah, that's an amazing video as well. Go check out Die Hard, Art of Anarchy. You're going to hear it here in a second. 40 years, Jeff, you've been in this business. What do you think of the state of rock now?
Oh, it's fucked. Come on. Well, no, okay. We say that based on our own personal experiences. We grew up in a different when things were totally different and how they were done and who did them, et cetera, et cetera. Everything changes. It evolves. Sometimes it devolves, but it pretty much evolves, and you either change with it or you kind of disappear in the smoke. We didn't grow up with the social media. We didn't grow up with having to. An artist used to have a mystique about them. An interview wouldn't come out like what you and I are doing if this is going to be edited and put out later. Wouldn't come out for 2-3 months.
Yeah.
So you'd be sitting on something that now it's instant gratification. We're done with this, and the world's going to hear it and see it. And that's the big difference to get used to, on top of the fact that nobody likes physical product anymore. No, I used to joke about how everything was downsizing. You start with a big old vinyl album, and then it was scaled down to an 8-track, and then a cassette, and then a CD, which is really flat and you can throw as a frisbee, and then mini disc. It just got smaller and smaller. I used to joke saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna have like a little postage stamp say, hey, check out my new album." And now it's just air, MP3s or streaming. It's digital. It's in the air. You don't hold it. You don't smell it. You don't unwrap it like we used to back in the day. And that's the part, we got used to, and it's hard to get out of the old habits, but you adapt, you kind of reinvent, and you just kind of follow the course, and you keep going, man.
Yeah, for sure. Art of Anarchy is your current project. What are you most proud of?
I'm just proud the fact that I'm still here. I'm proud that I'm just proud of the fact that people still want to hear this old dude singing. I put so much work and energy and love into what I do, and the only thing you wish for, aside of the obvious rewards and of having the big house and the boat and all that stuff that we always dream and talk about. The one thing for me is longevity. The fact that I'm still here, the fact that I'm still able to do what I'm doing, talking to you about what I'm doing, that to me means more than anything in the world. So to me, the 40-year reflection is more on that than anything else. Because I know I'm never going to be a household name. I'm not going to be as big as Paul Stanley or Gene Simmons behind your ear there. I will never be a household name in that effect. But you know what? In my world, I get to continue doing what I'm doing, and there are a lot of people out there that still like to listen to it. So I'm good.
Oh, well, and reading your bio, Jeff, and all the people you've met and the things you've done it. I mean, whether they know you or not, you've done it.
Yeah, and again, I count my lucky stars and my blessings that I only do this for a living. There are so many that had to have day jobs or fall back into a plan B. But this is my plan A, B, and C. There's no other course for me. So I'm just going to keep doing what I do until nobody wants to hear of me anymore.
Well, you look great, whatever you're doing. You stoked? I mean, you guys got, 8 dates coming up in March?
Yeah. It's not necessarily a tour yet. It's a run. I like it when you have anything more than 3 or 4 dates, I call it a run. But we knew we couldn't just sit around with the drop of the album and not do anything. But we also didn't want to commit to a full-fledged tour until we see that people are interested in this. Because the last thing a band wants to do, especially at our age, put out an album, you book a tour, and nobody shows up. I mean, that's just, it's a soul killer. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
So now we're going to put all our focus and attention into getting the album attention for the album and the songs, and hopefully it resonates. And from that, we're ready. We're ready to dance. If people want us, we're ready to go. But we also don't want to go out there and kill our souls in front of 50 people. We want it to be more like 5,000 or 500 or even 300 will be good for the beginning stage. We don't want to go out there and just go, oh boy, I could be home watching the Lakers lose again.
Don't let him sit at home and watch the Lakers lose. Go and check them out, Art of Anarchy. They're at artofanarchyband.com. They're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. The new album, Let There Be Anarchy, is out now, and they have the 8 tour dates. Go and see them if they're around your town. Jeff, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Jeff, it's my pleasure. It's always good to talk to another Jeff because it's a name I remember when I'm speaking to you.
Yeah, and we're a dying breed. That's for sure.
Exactly. Nobody wants to be named Jeff anymore.
No. Well, here it is. It's Die Hard. It's Art of Anarchy. It's Jeff Scott Soto. It's the Takeover. CBJRadio.com.